Well then, welcome back, and let's get straight into the conversations led by a book that has now elicited mixed reactions, even from the families of the late Sani Abacha, who are reacting to A Journey in Service, as published by IBB. Joining us to discuss this and many more is Patriot Desmond Fowobi. Good morning to you, the president of the Nigeria Nexus.
Good morning, gentlemen. It's good, and I feel good to be in your studio this morning.
Well, first things first, Nigerians woke up this morning with comments coming in from the Abacha family, particularly from the son of the late, head of state, talking about Muhammad Abacha, who had cited that the revelations made in the book, as published by former military president Badamasi Babangida, were false, and that he should take responsibility for the annulment of the June 12th election rather than pinning it on their patriarch and late father. What do you make of these statements coming in at this time?
Well, you see, the issue of June 12th annulment is not new. As you all know, that it's about 35 years.
Yeah.
That incident took place, that sad incident took place. From that time till now, there have been issues, there have been conflicts, there have been reactions. So what actually re-echoed that agitation and, reactions is the recently launched book and the convergence at the Transcorp Hilton in Abuja about 2-3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
When the then military president, Badamasi Babangida, made some revelations in his book. I know that revelation will be trailed by a lot of reactions and counter-reactions.
Yes.
Because there are a lot of people who have alleged that majority of the stories or facts there are false. Majority of the revelations of the IBB in that book, that they are just false, that is distorted thoughts, that he is not saying the truth, and he should be courageous enough at this age and time to say the truth. That instead of giving peddling falsehood in the name of trying to vindicate or to exonerate his name from the evil days of the military regime in the country. So I'm not surprised at all at the comment made by the son of former military head of state, General Sani Abacha. The point is that there are a lot of people who have had argument with in the recent days, and they are saying that the same thing, that it is even to the point of some of the claims he made as regarding whether he's responsible for killing of his friends and all that and all that.
Talking about
so many things that he has said. So I was just wondering, at that age, if now that you are bold enough to reveal certain facts about what transpired during your days as the head of state, as the military president, you should be courageous enough, bold enough, because of posterity, to say the truth. For now, I don't think there's any institution, I don't think there is anybody in this country that is ready to prosecute him or penalize him for his wrongdoing. Not even the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Well, the argument might have stemmed around the fact that the former military president is not running away from being punished or for serving a jail term or whatever with regards to what had transpired 30-something years ago during June 12th, but rather in a bid to wash his name and hands off the calamities that had ensued following the annulment of that election, which is technically now pinning it on the Abacha family.
Shijuki, whether you like it or not, Nigerians knows the truth, especially people that were close to the government, of the military government at that time. A lot of people, even without his revelation, there have been series of books from different quarters, from different players, from people who are involved in what has transpired among students, among political analysts, among military men. There have been series of books. So the book published or launched by Babangida is not the first to give an account
of the June 12th
election. Not even just the June 12th election, but account of the military government in Nigeria and what each actor played, the role each actor played. So what I will expect from IBB is to nip it at the bud, is to be bold because of posterity, to give a proper account and even correct some of the positions made by other authors that gave account of what transpired during the military government. That was what I was expecting.
Yeah.
Even some of the way the story, went, I knew that something is fishy. You cannot wait for 30-something years and still not give us the true reflection of what happened. And you can't even take responsibility for some of the atrocities you committed. For me, that is cowardice.
Well, in moving on past this issue, let's come to issues that are even more recent that still have different narratives to it. Off the back of the 6-month suspension handed over to Akpoti Udogan by the Senate. This morning also captured on the front pages of several newspapers are comments from the former Senate President Dr. Bukola Saraki. He is urging the incumbent Senate President not to politicize the matter or trivialize the calls for due process in the Senate. Many have looked at his comments as coming from a place of vendetta as well. What do you make of these calls from himself and Sarah?
Now, you cannot, many, not you, cannot be bold enough to describe that as vendetta. They cannot just describe it as a mere tantrum. Because if you look at the comment made by this SP, His Excellency Senate President Godswill Akpabio, when he made certain comments regarding that it is a plot by some of the enemy of democracy from Kwara State and Adamawa State. He's actually referring to some key players in the PDP. He didn't mention name, but who knows? Who didn't know that in Nigeria, when you mention Adamawa politics, you cannot take away the role that the former Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is playing in Adamawa State. There is no other name that is stronger than the name of Atiku Abubakar. And then you go to Kwara State. You cannot mention 2-3 politicians like the stakeholders in Kwara politics without mentioning Bukola Saraki, the former Senate President. And don't forget that the two of them, they are not in the same party with the Senate President. And of course, your guess is as good as mine. So you cannot give such a comment and not expect reactions. If you know former governor of Kwara State very well, former Senate President very well, he's not the kind of person that loves controversy. He's a quiet person, but he's quick to act. He believes in action than words. He doesn't talk too much. If you know him very well, even while he was the Senate President, he talks less. People do the talking for him. He's not good at talking. And for so many years now that he has left that office as the Senate President and even lost his re-election bid to the Senate, you will realize that he has not been making so much comments. You will agree with me that Saraki is not known to be making comments. But because this was like a direct attack, and that's what transpired at the Senate with the suspension of distinguished Senator Akpoti Natasha, is that actually greeted and trails with a lot of emotions, with the way events actually
have panned out.
Turned out. And not even that, and considering the timing when this happened, International Women's Day, sometimes journalists would want to
sensationalize the issues.
Journalists want to press certain people to make comments. They want to force words out of your mouth because of that International Women's Day. They want you to say something. What do you want to say? And considering what has happened to a female senator and this International Women's Day celebration, what do you have to say? So there will be, even it's not just Saraki who has reacted. Even his wife also reacted. at what transpired, and she threw direct attack to the female senators that they didn't do well, that the female senators in the House, those despite the fact that their number is very minute, they should be in solidarity with each other. That was our comment. You know, before this is coming from the husband, the former Senate President Saraki. You know, it is just to react to the comment made that even me, I was in the position that though you have the power to suspend the woman, the first thing first, she should be given the fair hearing. Like a case, though a case might be false, like everybody is saying that it's just mere allegation without facts. But for me, I felt like when somebody alleged, you should be given the reason to also prove. He has made an allegation, but throwing the water and the baby is not the best solution in this kind of situation or scenario. And that is where I want to, you know, come in.
Now, still talking about this issue, one of the comments that the Senate President had made regarding the controversy is the fact that he deliberately refused to speak on the matter publicly and too often, so that it wouldn't be like a banter, a back and forth between him and you know, Senator Natasha Akpoti, and instead allowed the Senate leader, Senator Bamidele, to do the talking, as well as, you know, other stalwarts of the APC and also members of the Senate. In this sort of situation, don't you think that the Senate President might have been right in not directly engaging in this, which might have also escalated tensions and, you know, flared up emotions beyond what it should be?
First of all, yes, we do respect to the office of the Senate President, but don't forget that it is a case of two people that is, one is alleging on our personal rights.
Yes.
And with respect to the office of the Senate President, somebody has alleged. You don't, because somebody is the Senate President, you cannot question such person, or because you are a Senate President, you cannot be questioned, or you don't have the moral justification or
over an accusation or allegation.
First of all, you have to maintain your space as a human being before a Senate President. You are not alleged because you are a Senate President. You are alleged because you are Akpabio.
No, but are we forgetting that a panel was set up to hear this matter and she did not appear before that panel?
No, she wrote a petition.
No, even before the petition, the panel on ethics, code of conduct, and public petitions was asked to hear her matter. She did not attend the summon, even before signing the petition herself. Now, it almost seems as though the reportage of this case is that she was suspended because of the allegations. People now forget it was owing to seat arrangements, which even the incumbent Senate President, while he was a member of the Senate under erstwhile President Bukola Saraki, had to apologize when he found himself to be out of order. And even back then, it was on record that seats were not even assigned at the moment, and the Senate was undergoing some form of rehabilitation.
See, Bito, that is the more reason why the Senate President should have acted more maturely and more calmly in treating the woman. You know, in the case of man versus man, there won't be this emotion attached. There won't even be a case of sexual harassment arose in the first place, because it's a woman and they are weaker vessels, no matter how you want to take it.
But one person has disagreed with this, and she has also received criticism.
I'm coming.
Senator Itagiwa said in the Senate there are no men and women, and Nigerians are not women.
Is it safe to say, Patriot Desmond, that in as much as there were certain Senate rules that the Senator Natasha had flouted, the Senate President, as well as the Nigerian Senate, was also wrong, talking about the committee now, was also wrong in terms of timing for her suspension?
It is not the Senate President that was wrong.
I'm talking about the
manner
committee
in which the committee and the Senate as a whole manage that situation.
I'm talking about the timing.
But you're saying they should have given recourse to her judge.
I'm talking about the timing.
I'm not pointing any wrong. I've not seen But it's just about human dealing, the way we deal with things.
Especially with gender
inclusivity and tolerance.
But here's the argument.
That is where I am speaking to.
There's equity of the genders. There's no man or woman in the Senate.
Senate President is not a woman. The Senate President is a male gender that the world perceived to be stronger vessel, while the female gender is a weaker vessel. I expect at that level of
Patriot Desmond, I think many women listening to you
might feel offended
constantly calling them the weaker vessel.
No, it is not me. It is the perception.
Well, this perception is what many women have been trying to eradicate from our society time and again.
You cannot take away
the recently concluded International Women's Day had addressed this issue of women being addressed as weaker vessels and treated as such. Should women be treated with respect? Yes. Should women be treated with dignity? Absolutely. Yes. Should women be treated as children or as less than men?
No.
That is what women are fighting against.
That's not what I meant. That you have to treat them like children. No. You have to consider their emotions most times. You need to understand that the nurture.
Now this is a very delicate issue. So
there is a difference between nurture and sex. That is between sex and gender. Now, if you look at the male gender, if you look at the female gender, the way society has constructed female gender, more especially in African descent, you find out that it is the society that has made the woman to do lesser, appear lesser, and even go for lesser. The society, even some of our laws in Africa, there are a lot of things that we need to change institutionally before this political. These are just mere politics, saying that women should be treated like a children. Some people are arguing. It is not. You know that in Africa, the way society perceived female sex and the way they socially construct their role, the role the women are constructed to play in the society, actually strategically position them in that area I describe as weaker vessel.
Now,
naturally, if you go by their genetic makeup,
this act of infantilizing women
is not me. It is the society.
No, you now, Patriot. That's on the society. I'm talking about the society.
Am I the society?
You are part of the society, but I'm not saying you are infantilizing women. I'm saying the society continues to infantilize women.
So until we are at that level,
and this
when we have changed a lot of things,
this action is what stunts the growth and the development of women in certain key areas of the society,
don't forget that Nigeria
in politics. Take a look at the Nigerian Senate. What is the ratio of male to female senators in the Senate?
4.
What is the ratio of
male
to female at the House of Representatives? Take a look at all the houses of assembly across the nation. Has there ever been a female governor in Nigeria, except perhaps in Taraba State when we had that Mama Taraba governor? That was like the one and only female governor that Nigeria has ever produced. Otherwise, it has always been male. So when we talk about the issue of men and women, especially in this sort of situation, it's always important to be careful so as to
let's get something.
It's always important to be careful.
There is no even for you to go that route because we are not actually insulting the femalehood or we are not infantilizing them. What we are trying to do here is to be very sensitive and logical in our analysis. What I'm trying to tell you is that we did not just get here between yesterday and today. Between this situation, between Akpabio, Senate President Akpabio, and the Senator Natasha. No. Society has evolved over years, thousands of years, and we've been doing this wrong thing for years. So you don't expect that you take a drastic action to change it. It has to be continuous advocacy for the woman role, for roll call and change of role of the woman, the way the society perceived. But it is not something you can do overnight. Now, doing that overnight will be injustice to the female folks. What do I mean by injustice? If you today, because you are trying to advocate for equality in the role of male sex and female sex, because you are actually advocating for equality, it has to be a long-time arrangement that you have to help the woman to level up. The female gender has not leveled up. There is no way, anywhere, it is a blatant injustice. If you want to compare a man gender and a female gender in a society that have groomed for thousands of years, they have groomed the male gender to be stronger vessel. Now, for a woman or a female gender to be at that same level, you have to take some years of orientation, years of nurturing, years of reconstruction.
On this orientation,
we have not even started the reconstruction. We have not started the orientation. We have not started paying attention to some of the wrong that the society has done to the
which will now lead to reconciliation.
Now on this orientation is a place where even this issue on the floor of the Senate has been greeted with some questions, because of the 109 senators in that chamber, distinguished Senator Natasha Akpoti was the last to enter the chamber. She came in through the courts. She missed the orientation course for the 109 senators. And not even in the issue that sparked all of this brouhaha, the seat reassignment, the likes of Senator Ned Nwoko defected to the All Progressive Congress, leaving the PDP, and by way of rearranging those seats, you know that the majority sits on the right, minority sits on the left. This orientation could have been an issue.
See, what happened at the Senate is not a question of whether rules, orientation, or anything. Don't forget that it was the same Senate that allocated that seat to her earlier. And the argument of the Senate President or the Senate as a whole is that the Senate President have the right, based on stability and productivity of the House, to reassign not just committee, even seats. Now, the question is, why is it Senator Natasha Akpoti Uduaghan seat?
Because she was the last relocated after Senator Ned Nwoko's defection.
It could have been
the seats between himself and herself were all vacant. Now,
do you know that the Senate President have the power to
decide?
The Senate President has the power to either leave her there, or change her seat, or not change her seat. What would that have done to the Senate?
But changing her seat, the senators,
changing her seat,
have been logical to do.
Changing her seat amidst the claim that she was removed. I'm coming. Don't forget her. She said there are series of events that has took place.
Which did not favor her.
Which did not favor her. See, sometimes we have to be human. See, people have forgotten the case. You have to look at the case very well. You have to understand that the Senate President has played the politics there. The Senate President has played the politics of party politics and favoritism.
But that's been the standing rule on the floor of the Senate. That's why
it is left for the people that will utilize the rules.
Majority in the ruling party.
Vito, let's get something clear to Nigeria. Let's Nigeria understand something. That if the Senate President have decided not to change our committee, nobody is going to question the
have you seen the position of a certain senator?
I'm coming. Forget about all those people. Forget about all the other senators. I'm talking about Senator Natasha and distinguished.
But she wouldn't have been in that committee without the role of Senator Sunday Karim.
I'm coming. The Senate rules has given the president, the SP, so many powers to utilize. So many powers to utilize to assign committees, assign seats. That is his own power to do. Here is this law. The Senate President is not under compulsion. The Senate President is not under any influence whatsoever that he must change the committee or change the seat. It is as long as the Senate President...
He is not under compulsion, but the Senate President has said that these are routine changes that happen every now and then at the Nigerian Senate.
Not a case of just the 10th Assembly.
Not just the case of the 10th Assembly. Even within the 10th Assembly, they are always reshuffling.
First of all, you need to understand, because laws are made with intention. What is it meant to cure? What solution is it meant to cure?
When President Bola
meant to create
when President Bola Ahmed Tinubu rejigged his cabinet and changed ministers, what was that meant to address?
To address some inefficiencies.
And you think that might have also been the case with the Senate?
No. According to what we have heard from even the Senate, that she has been effective. She has been effective. the Senate, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Bola Ahmed Tinubu,
yes,
decides most times to change people from their portfolio, ministerial portfolio,
based on their performance and
capacity. When the president realizes that this person is better performing in that sector or would better perform in that sector, the president will feel like, let me change. Sometimes,
as disgruntled as the ministers might be, Patriot Desmond, has there been any minister that was changed by the president and then the minister came out to publicly
the ministers are not elected. The ministers are not elected. The role of a senator and the senator and the minister is two different things.
Please,
you know why?
Explain.
Now, every senators are equal by election because they are meant to represent a senatorial district. It is by God's divine will that somebody will emerge as principal officers in the Senate, where God has favored. It was out of favor.
God of politics
has favored Akpabio, that he became the SP to the 10th Assembly. But don't forget that they were all equal, but he's more equal than others.
Yes.
Now, what you should understand is that the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria appoints ministers, not because they were elected as all presidents. So, in the case of senator, in the same of Senate President and Natasha, they are like this. In the case of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and ministers, they are like this.
So they can't say anything.
They can say, what would they want to say? Okay. Because it is the president who give you assignment, do this, do that. But the law empowers the senator to do what they are doing. It is not out of favor or from the president, Senate President, that the senators were in the Senate. They were there because of the shared support and love by their people from their senatorial district. In this case, the people of Kogi Central had found Senator Natasha very competent.
Closing so that we move on to other issues because we're not leaving the.
No, I just want to put some.
I'll get back to
you. The point I want to establish here is that the Senate President has also played some politics. That politics is permitted to play those politics within the ambit of their rules. The woman is supposed to play to understand that though the Senate President has not done anything wrong, but the Senate President can do better. That's what I want to say.
Now in closing, it was between two people, Dr. Bukola Saraki and...
Senate President.
Now, in speaking to facts with the issue, in 2017, there was also an accusation against Dr. Bukola Saraki involving him and Senator Siminalayi, in which they are accused of falsifying documents.
Politics, yes.
He didn't step aside, although Senator Ndume received a suspension for over 181 days.
Yes.
In 2018 again, another issue involving Dr. Bukola Saraki, which was mentioned in the Offa Bank robbery incidents, where about 33 people, including a pregnant woman, was murdered. Dr. Saraki did not step aside. It goes on to quote several instances, and now the contention is that Dr. Saraki is calling for Senate President Senator Akpabio to step aside in this case.
He didn't call him to step aside.
I have the statement with me here.
That he should allow fair hearing.
That's what it means. Technically, that's what it means. It means you cannot be the judge in your own case. But that being said, let's leave the Senate and come to another hot boiling point in Rivers State, where an olive branch in this case, much like the window that was handed by the Senate President for a written apology. This is not an apology, but it's a executive legislative parley between the governor and the Amahule-led assembly. We've seen replies on one end from the assembly even ahead of this meeting saying that there's error in the letter processing of the executive. The executive is saying he won't mind representing the budget. But with the case in Rivers State ahead of this meeting, one word stands out. A lot of media outlets are saying uncertainty might be the outcome. What do you say about the Rivers situation?
Don't forget that if you have been monitoring what is happening in Rivers State, you'll find out that it is political. And it's always very difficult to actually nip it in the bud. And with the recent pronouncement, and the court has not actually played a good role. Let me put it that way. The court is part of the problem. Our judicial system has been responsible in exacerbating what is happening in the Rivers politics by rules and counter judgment. Do you know how many judgments that you can trace to some of these conflicts since its inception. We have had 6 different judges and judgments, and there has been counter judgment from higher courts. It shouldn't be. The courts should be the last hope of the man. But it seems that our court system is being influenced by certain power and certain interests and money. I'll put it that way because I have my evidence. Do you know that most times the courts tend to favor the president or the president's party or where the president's body language is? That's where the court always downs to. It shouldn't be. So the Nigerian court in the recent time has been biased when dealing with political matters. Where the court has been a little bit steadfast is dealing with criminal cases and all that. When it comes to political issues, not knowing that, forgetting that political matters can also affect lives. Do you know that there have been threats by Ijaw Youth Congress, Niger Delta Group, different groups in the Niger Delta threatening that all non-indigenous in River State should vacate because of some of the bloody road they are going to take in the recent time, that they are going to bomb pipelines, they are going to vandalize government property, they are going to launch assault on the infrastructure of government, and civilians might be affected. That non-indigenous, so that they will not read meaning that the Niger Delta Youth or Niger Delta Congress is killing non-indigenous in River State. You see, we don't need that at this time. And some of the things that is fueling some of this agitation is because the court is not steadfast in their rulings. Now, everything said and done. Now, this is the new judgment. The new judgment has vacated the assembly, the elections, the local government election of October 4. Now, whether October 8 or so. Now, this is an ultimatum now that they have to conduct a new election in the River State, and the governor has said that he's going to agree or accepted to conduct fresh election. That is one. Then number 2, just yesterday I saw that there is going to, on the 10th, or by 10 a.m. this morning, the governor of River State has also wrote an invitation to the secretary to the government, to the Amahole-led faction of the assembly, of Rivers Assembly, for a round table discussion. And which
one of the lawmakers has refuted and said that they might not hold a meeting?
Why?
That's the big question here.
Why? It is not a decision table. It is a conversation, negotiation table.
Do you think that Honorable Matthew Amaule with his 26-man
what are you
assembly will go and meet the governor? Do you think they would?
What's your insinuation? Are you insinuating that by the time the governor brings them together, you will present the budget
I'm not insinuating, but rather I am projecting that Matthew Amaule and his men might not meet the governor
until that time. Let's not.
It's happening today, so we'll have to see exactly in the next 2 hours or so.
For me, that move is really courageous
by the
governor to send an open invitation when somebody that you're not talking to for a very long time suddenly calls on you. That's the turnaround. The governor has repented, and the governor felt like, okay, we cannot continue to do things the old way, the wrong way, and expect to move Rivers forward. This is the time we want to start doing things in the right way. We want to start doing things in the right way. I don't want to continue making mistakes that will make court to order a judge to issue a judgment today and tomorrow it will be outturned. I want to follow due process. I want to negotiate. Let's come to, after all, we're all brothers in the same party before certain gladiators, certain issues turns out between the governor and the minister of FCT, former governor of River State, some Wike. Don't forget that some of this, that's why I said the courts would have resolved this issue long ago, if not for this argument, counter judgment. You know, government, a whole court of high court will issue a ruling, another court will outturn the ruling. You will only end up creating unnecessary conflict that nobody will be able to resolve. You know, because in one hand, the governor is getting his power from this court. On the other hand, another court is giving the other person power. So it is creating unnecessary confusion that's eating up the polity. We should not be a case of, we should not make our democracy a case of caricature. We should not make jest or mockery of our democracy in Africa, in Nigeria. This situation in Rivers State is that is bringing a lot of embarrassment to our judicial system and our democracy. For me, as one, I will expect that only because political solutions may not work in this case. Because we've tried, the president has helped to mitigate or mediate peace between these conflicting parties. And it's not even the assembly that is conflicting with the president, with Fubara. It is a clear case between the minister of FCT and the governor of Rivers State,
which is a well-known secret.
To solve this problem, first of all, let's put aside all these issues, all these budget or no budget, election or no budget. They called object. I'm a scholar in peace studies. They're called object of the issues. Yes. The main issue is that there are some underlying issues between the governor and his successor. That is predecessor. And that is why, if you want to solve this issue, the court should look at the case, investigate, if at all they have the power. Because the governor, the ex-governor, the former governor does not have any role. Direct role is playing in this politics. But he's using his words. He's using his structure to destabilize the government of Rivers State. And he has his own reason for that he brought him on board. He has invested so much on him.
As a godfather.
So now, when the court knows the truth. The Nigerian court knows that all this judgment you're interpreting, these people are smarter than you guys. The politicians, the governor and the former governor, they are politicians and they are smarter than the court. And the court is just making mockery of their self by providing judgment, and another court will outturn it. Why not look at the case critically and also look at the case of the intention? What is the cause of some of these crises? And this crisis is having no end as at now. Because until you resolve the issue between Wike and Fubara, we are moving nowhere in Rivers State.
I want to argue to be our main discussion for 9. Yeah. I have messaged that we might just rest this conversation for 9. We would also have a legal practitioner and one of the PDP stalwarts in Rivers join to give us fresh updates on this matter. But talking about investigation, quite interestingly, the next matter in the news is on the recoveries of the EFCC. The EFCC over time had been dubbed as being one agency that is not only going after internet fraudsters, but in 2024, with this new discovery, it may seem as though the EFCC is looking to redeem its image, as it says that it recovered most of this cash from rogue politicians, 1 trillion naira in assets. It has also gone on to list out the cases that it got convictions from the courts. What do you make of this latest news from the EFCC?
You see, let me tell you, Nigeria in paper is perfect, but in execution has its problems. Do you know that the EFCC was established to trace, track, and prosecute anybody involved in financial crimes? There are a lot of people who will get involved in financial misappropriation and crimes. But because they belong to the ruling party, they are shielded from prosecution, from investigation. Do you know that it has become like a tradition and a culture that most times when somebody is found guilty of certain misappropriation and the EFCC is about to take their case up, once they step down from the attack to the ruling government, EFCC overlook their case. Or when they are in contentment or contention over a particular issue with the ruling party and they get a threat that they are going to be investigated by EFCC, you see that they will back down. That has been the culture, which means the EFCC have been doing what we call selected investigation over time. The EFCC have not come all out to investigate all financial crimes. Do you know how many people that have been alleged of one crime, misappropriation or the other, and they are still part of this government, not investigated, or they are now treated with maybe with carrots with a carrot and stick, like Jonathan put it. You see, one thing you need to understand about Nigeria is that we are not ready for governance.
I disagree with that. If you say that Nigeria is not ready for governance,
let me tell you, even the people
I think it's best to allow Patriot touch more on this. What do you mean by Nigeria is not ready for governance?
What I mean is that if you look at our institution and systems and the law, you find out that if only we can follow the rules of the game to the letter, we have a functional society. But the people that were elected to man these offices in Parasasta, they rather look away, and nobody is asking questions. The Nigerian people, they are not asking the right questions. And in the first place, why would the people even elect or vote people that are having one allegation of corruption or the other into certain offices? Or even the president give appointment to somebody who is a culprit, who is an accomplice, somebody whose name has been repeatedly mentioned in one saga or the other. That is to tell you that we are not ready to steer the affair of this country to pinnacle, to stardom. Otherwise, there are people who don't have business in being a minister. There are people who don't have business or being elected. There are some people that were even employed with forged certificates. So in a system where people are ready for government, those kind of things will not be allowed in the first instance. That was what I meant when I said that we are not ready for
but it almost feels like you used hasty generalization to
I'm
say
not
Nigeria
generalizing now. No, I'm not generalizing.
I haven't listened to your points. We agree. We'll just take one more issue in the news and just briefly get your thoughts on it. It's on the call from Catholic bishops. I've been told we have just 2 minutes.
Okay.
I believe it will be a good place to let it land. Catholic bishops are now urging the federal government to tackle the rate of poverty. This morning, 129 million Nigerians out of a population of nearly 220 million are below multidimensional poverty.
I don't know the sudden resurrection of Catholic in 2025 when we have had this issue for a very long time.
Maybe it's in keeping with the season of Lent, with the fast and everything.
Well, I just hope that it is not politically motivated. And the point is that it's a timely call. Sincerely, I expect more of those institutions. You cannot take Catholic as an institution away from the governance of the world, the governance of Nigeria, and this government holds Catholic in high esteem. So if Catholic and other institutions, government, political institution, religious institution has been vocal in calling for good governance over time, maybe Nigeria would have been a better place. Now, it's beyond just calling on government. What about members, sensitization? What about the Christendom? What about the Christian community, religious community? Religious institutions should see themselves as the teacher, as the creator, as the institution to correct anomalies in our society. A lot of people have claimed to be either a Christian or a Muslim, and yet you find out that they are involved in different crimes and they have a shepherd that is intermediating between them and God. So if this institution can be more vocal and aggressive in their call towards uprightness, I think this country will move forward. So what I'm saying is that this call shouldn't be to the government alone. It should also be to the Christian community, the Muslim community. Every one of us needs to join our voice, harmonize our voice, and be a vanguard voice that will champion patriotism, champion good behavior in our society. And that is the only way out of this hook.
All right, Patriot Desmond, I think it's a fine place to land and leave the conversation, but it's been a pleasure having you here in the studio. Thank you very much.